If you think about what's happened over the generations, go and Google things like geopolitical and technical advances in the last 500 years. And you'll probably find that Columbus had just wetted his anchor in the New World, in the Americas, and you'll probably find out that Copernicus was still advocating the world was flat. Now, there's a lot of things change. This is a continuous thing of change, and I think the opportunity for everyone is to keep changing, is to keep stepping forward, keep looking at other things. I think there's enormous potential for transformation of mine. So if you think where it sits geographically, but also the potential in the Mackay region, because it's got a really strong agricultural base, it's got a good tourism base. So there you've got a certain amount of diversity where you can do some connectors between mining and these other futures. Now those transformations will be bringing skills from outside the sector into a mining sector, but sort of merging it and providing an opportunity to open the box up differently. First of all, I don't really go on the word rehabilitation. I'd much prefer us to, first of all, stop using the word closure, because that should be a no-go, and stop thinking about transition, because that normally says you're leaving something that's not good. Economic transformation, because mining is it's a moment in time, it's a temporary land use. And these changes in land use have occurred for 50, 60, a million years, and they will keep changing. If you keep doing the same thing, it's not really a career. I guess there's certain people that might be happy with that, but I don't think it's great for diversification. I don't think it's great for prosperity. If you don't think outside the box, the guy that invented that, he had to think outside the box. Yeah, I remember some of the early mobile phones, they were pretty dumb, and we could have kept doing the same thing. So thinking outside the box should be part of our human motivation. And when you're looking at a region like this, you're looking at quite different things. In the 70s we had cadetships, and good companies hired, I guess, halfway good kids who were motivated to become engineers. I wanted to be an engineer. We had a cadetship. I started working cans at a sugar mill at Hambledon, which is just south of Cairns. It no longer exists. And I did a 6-year honours degree in engineering. I did reasonably well through CSR. Went to Harvard University, MBA and things like that. So I loved that company, and I loved the journey I've got through. enviroMETS has been an interesting thing. It probably plays on being grey hair and having a fair bit of experience. It comes about because an organisation called METS Ignited had a cluster group which was specifically looking at mine tailings management and mine affected water, and we had an opportunity to do something different, and I did a review of it. We were either going to shut it down or give it a real purpose. So enviroMETS has got a purpose to now is to find innovative and sustainable new value in old mine sites for the current custodians and future custodians. So it's a broader thing, but it's a more powerful thing. It's more relevant now. We've got some thousands of abandoned mines. That's like 10%. So even though we're pursuing this result, we're getting that one. That's not good. It's not good for us as a community. It's not good for us as a state. It's not good for us as an industry. It's not good for us as the future of kids wanting to do new things. It's about living. Everything you do doesn't work out perfect first time, and you can't de-risk relationships. You can't de-risk knowledge, development of knowledge. You can't de-risk that to death. And in fact, maybe that's what's happening. We're de-risking learning to death. There's a question, it's called what if. What if is the question that solves most problems. So what if I turn this phone into a mini computer? I'd end up with a smartphone. Didn't really plan that, but I got it. Pretty smart. What if I looked at a mine site. If you take the 𝙤𝙪𝙩 project in the UK, the guy was a drummer in a band, I believe, and he didn't look at the mine site and see an old abandoned mine. He saw the 𝙤𝙪𝙩 project. He saw something completely different. I think it set the global standard of what you could do in transformation. Remember, it happened in about the 2000s, thereabouts. It attracts 2 million visitors a year. You know, it was the host for the G7 summit. But it's a signature thing, and it tells a story that don't look at what's there, look at what it could be there. And so when I looked at a place like Mount Morgan, which is a scar of the past of our mining heritage, you can see past that. You can see what its future could be. But how do we get to go play in that future? When I come in from Moranbah, from the airport into town, there's a trapezoidal overburden heap with a couple of drag lines. And I look at it and I go, well, why is it that way? It's that way because that's the way the rules said. But it could equally be using those halfway decent earth-moving equipment, turn them into the world's greatest four-wheel drive explorer park and become a global game for four-wheel drives. Now, by the way, we can't do that because right now, the regulations that we have in place for mining and in the current rehabilitation, which has to be environmental. I think the Queensland government has a real opportunity in going down the 𝙤𝙪𝙩 project road with opportunities that I know exist in Queensland, or with this Bowen Basin, become an absolute world leader in innovative and sustainable reuse or repurposing mines. No doubt about it. And that just requires being a little bit risk taker. And that is part of the Queensland character. The best ideas that I've heard for economic transformation of mine sites and abandoned sites have occurred leaning over the back of a ute. So the best thing you could do is probably lean over the back of the ute and have a talk and just look around you, because you live there, you know what's going on, you've got a feel for the climate, you can see the opportunities. You shouldn't expect someone working in a high-rise building in some remote place down in southern Australia to tell you how you're going to run your future. We've got to inspire people to think differently. You know, that's the message I've got, is think differently. The tribute to Steve Jobs is here's to the crazy ones. Albert Einstein, those guys, you know, they're the guys that came up with these crazy ideas that have changed the world. And this whole region is it's a great connector between its agriculture, its tourism, and its resources sector, to be able to connect, but build the bridges between them. Don't have them in these little silos. I don't think taking risk is a bad thing. You know, a message to why am I so passionate about being an engineer and thinking differently is it comes from the stories my family have got embedded in them of having a go. Like, what if I try something different? Or what if I do something different? What if I think differently? I think we're expecting too much from a screen. Can we change and inspire ourselves to think differently?